Welcome to Journey to Justice. I'm Eiko Kosasa, and today we will continue my two-part interview with Dr. Kekuni Blaisdell. In the second portion, Dr. Blaisdell discusses the inspiration for the 1993 Kanaka Maoli Tribunal Komike, a historic event that clearly documented the predatory and unjust actions of the United States against the Hawaiian nation and its people. He also shares his thoughts on Hawaiian resistance. 1993, you organized the tribunal, right?
Yes, so I have to tell you about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have to tell you about Kawaipuna Regime.
Yes.
And I'll have to bring you some tribunal documents. So Kawaipuna Regime was generally known as those early days as a musician. And his wife, very attractive, what was her name? Was a hula dancer. She went off to law school. They had two boys. They probably have grandchildren now. Huh? And I think were separated and divorced. But Kawaipuna learned that the United Nations had established a working group on indigenous populations. I've forgotten what year. And that they would meet end of July every year in Geneva. So he began going to those sessions every year. So he'd go to the swap meet, get enough money for a plane ticket, one-way plane ticket. And he had friends along the way he could stay with. He had friends in Geneva, found a lady, had lady friends there. When I went once, you know, people would say, "Oh, you're from Hawaii, you know Kawaipuna, of course." They say, "Oh." Every year, he would come back to our Friday meetings with documents, and he'd tell us what had happened at the meeting, and that we needed to know about these things because we are an indigenous people. What does that mean? So he said, "Well, read this. You find out. So I'll tell you, but you've got to study and learn for yourself. We have rights." And the United Nations is now in the process of drafting a declaration on the rights of indigenous peoples. We are indigenous peoples, all right? We're colonized by the United States, who stole our country. The United States has to give it back. They're not going to give it back unless we force them to do it, all right? So we're going to do it through international law, which is on our side. Wow, so this was all news to us. And then 1992, early in that year, in March or April, he came back with documents and he told us we're going to hold an international Peoples Tribunal, bring the United States to trial for its crimes against our nation. What's that? He said, well, there's going to be a Peoples International Tribunal in San Francisco in October of 1992, this year. So we're all going to go and we're going to find out what it is and how to run it. And then in 1993, the centennial of the overthrow of the monarchy, we're going to host a tribunal here. Wow. So we organized what we call Kanaka Maoli Tribunal Komike to plan for and the following year conduct, to hold, to host People's International Tribunal. And then in April, I think, 1992, at midnight, YWCA building on University Avenue, his heart stopped. When the ambulance took him to Straub, performed an autopsy, he had massive myocardial infarction.
What is that?
Heart attack.
Heart attack.
coronary vessel closed off, not enough blood going to the heart muscle, just stopped.
Wow.
And I think he was 52 years old, I think.
Wow.
So we decided that we had to go ahead with the tribunal without him. And at that time, his girlfriend was Ulla Hasseger.
Mm-hmm.
And she had just come from Denmark, I think the year before. She was very helpful to us because she was very close to Kabai Puna, right?
Yeah.
So we went to the San Francisco Peoples International Tribunal, and there we met some very important people. Well, first we discovered that there were some Kanaka who were also there.
At the 92 tribunal.
92 in San Francisco. One of them was Kawehi.
Oh,
She was known at that time as Rita Gill,
yeah.
but we found out that her name was Kawehi Kanui,
Yeah. That's
and
right.
she had married one of the Gill brothers, Tom Gill's son. They later, I guess, were divorced, had some children. So she was there, and at that time she was working for Bumpy.
Oh.
And Bumpy wasn't there, but Bumpy's sister was there. And then the first day, who should stroll in but Liko Martin with his guitar and a stack of books, including Hawaii's Story by Hawaii's Queen.
Wow.
Do you know Liko? They know what Liko is.
Waimanalo Blues.
So we had good representation there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there we met the coordinator director of that People's Tribunal, and his name was Alejandro Molino. And he was Puerto Rican and ran a school for Puerto Ricans in a charter school in West Chicago, in the Puerto Rican ghetto there.
Yes.
Very suave, sophisticated, sharp, articulate, smart reader. And he was organizing this People's Tribunal. Wow. And we found that the prosecutor of the tribunal was Francis Anthony Boyle, professor of international law at University of Illinois College of Law. What an impressive figure.
Okay.
And we found that one of the judges was Ward Churchill. So that's where we first met Ward Churchill, as well as some other very distinguished people. And the tribunal was against the United States for its oppression of not only indigenous people in the United States, so-called Native Americans, but also blacks, people of color, and also, I've forgotten what they call them, whether they call them Mexicans or Latinos, what's the other term?
Chicano.
Chicanos.
Yeah.
So they had representatives from the pre-US country of Mexico, pressing claims against the United States for taking Texas, California, New Mexico, Arizona, California, I think all the way up to Oregon. And I'd forgotten all about this when I went to high school, you know, or college.
Yeah.
So I relearned some of that, and I was so impressed. Because these people were so sharp, and they had the evidence and document, you know. And they were very, very supportive of us. Anyway, we learned how to conduct a tribunal.
Okay.
And we got Alejandro to come out here and help us organize, raise funds for, and conduct our tribunal here
Yeah.
in August. And we decided on 2 dates, August 12th to August 21st. Because August 21st, 12th, 1898 was the date of the illegal
Yeah.
official annexation, illegal annexation, fraudulent annexation of our country by the United States. And August 21st was the date of the illegal statehood admission process.
Yeah.
So we wanted to fix those 2 dates. So we held a tribunal between those 2 dates. And we invited Kanaka Maoli on the neighbor islands to come to Honolulu to present their claims against the United States. And every one of the groups on the neighbor islands shook their heads. You want us to participate? You come to our island. You get to our island, we will host you. But we will conduct the sessions, not you. Okay. So that's it. So have you seen the tribunal document?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that. Yeah. And
So that
I
was,
went and
that
listened
was
to
the
some of
basic
it said.
understanding, you know. So they were the hosts. They decided
Yeah.
what went on.
Wow. Yeah. And you had the findings.
We had to
yeah.
find, and we picked judges. Oh, so sharp. And Maivan Lamb helped us select those judges. So that's how we got Ward Churchill and his colleague Sharon Venn,
Yeah.
who's Canadian Indian, and
There was Te Moana Jackson, Maori, Te Moana Jackson. Moana Jackson.
yeah, Moana Jackson
Yeah.
from Aotearoa.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And from University of Rutgers University, Lennox Hines,
Yeah.
black fellow,
Yeah.
who was very close to Carter's, was it Carter's representative to the UN, black fellow? What is his name? Very popular young fellow. Anyway, black fellow. And then Richard Falk, professor of international law at Princeton,
Yeah.
who helped Maivan publish her book. And Milner Ball, professor of constitutional law at University of Georgia, also very close to Maivan. So we wouldn't even known about some of those people if it weren't for Maivan.
Yeah.
So very impressive.
Yeah.
And they worked so hard. They stayed up all night, the last night, so they could finish their report on the last day and hand out copies. They got it printed before dawn. Isn't that something?
Yeah. No, amazing, because they traveled to all the islands and got to listen. And,
Stayed up all night.
yeah.
Really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the tribunal, huh? And of course the main points were that the United States had illegally overthrown the monarchy, illegally annexed, and illegally proceeded with an illegal statehood process. So those are the three. But in additional ones, or they took the land. Not only that, but they undertook environmental degradation as well, and ethnocide, that is cultural genocide. And the major recommendations were that the United States immediately recommend right to self-determination of the Kanaka Maoli people and proceed with the process for exercising free determination, going back to reinscribing Hawaii on the United Nations list of non-self-governing territories eligible for decolonization. Right? So we've been pushing for that.
Okay, so then in 2000, they came up with, they started the Akaka Bill, right? Which is, from my point of view,
Akaka Bill,
in 2000, right?
that's right. And it's important, and people seem to forget why the Akaka Bill came to be. Huh?
Oh.
A kakabil is not a logical consequence of the Akaka Apology Resolution. In a very important sense, it contradicts it. It violates the Apology Resolution because it calls for recognition of a reorganized Native Hawaiian government, right?
Right. Right.
Under Department of Interior.
Right. Right.
In other words, like an American Indian tribe.
Right.
Sufficiently changed in language so that it's not exactly like an American Indian tribe, right? But that's the pathway.
Yeah.
That's the process, right?
Right.
And therefore that's the product. If you follow the pathway of American Indians, then Hawaiians will be able to have something, right? But it also means that at least on interpretation of what is called American Indian law, right, that is laws that govern American Indians, right? They are, American Indians are dependent nations
Right.
under the plenary authority of the U.S. Congress.
Right.
So it's a play of words. It's really not a nation,
Yeah.
but they use the term nation. So then they put in dependent, which really tells you, right? They're not independent, they're dependent,
Right.
right? And under the plenary power authority of the Congress, which means Congress changes its mind any time.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right?
Yeah.
So,
And that's kind of what the Akaka Bill restates, right?
yeah,
That
it has to.
it's only if and when the state or the federal government decides it wants to negotiate with the lands, then any kind of land thing can happen, right? If
right.
not, whatever is formed, Hawaiians wouldn't have any lands, right?
Whatever
that
government,
entity
whatever
is.
government we form, we have to be able to negotiate with them, and they have to approve of whatever kind of government we form.
Yeah.
Whatever they got to approve.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not sovereignty at all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But Senator Inouye likes to use the term, there are levels of sovereignty.
Yeah.
Oh, to us, sovereignty means independence. Oh, that's not
Yeah.
sovereignty.
Yeah.
So we use that. That's why we avoid using the term, or we say right out front, independence. Right?
Oh, okay. And some people are even, I know some activists, they don't even want to use the word self-determination.
Yes.
Because the federal government is using that to mean
That's
something
right.
else.
They misuse it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They misuse it. And they misuse it when they predetermine our
Right.
status, then they call it our self-determination.
Right. Right.
It's not, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when we talk about self-determination under international law and reinscribing us on the list of non-self-governing territories, they don't want to hear it. They don't know what we're talking about. They
Yeah.
don't want to know about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they deny that it's,
Yeah. Yeah.
can't even get them to talk about it.
Yeah. Because they don't, as you said, they don't want to hear it because.
They don't want to, because they know what it's going to mean.
Yeah. Exactly.
But
exactly.
some of us feel that that's an important principle in international law that has been violated and should not be completely abandoned. All right?
Okay.
So we're not throwing it out. We are considering, Keanu Sai's proposal, and that is that the Hawaiian Kingdom continues to exist, and it's merely a matter of restoring a government, a reinstated government, to be recognized by the United States and community, family of nations, the UN. So that's what he's pursuing. That's why he sued Obama,
Yeah. Right. Right.
presumably, to get that wedge in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's a very different approach, right? It depends on the law of military occupation by the United States of our country. and it calls upon the United States to abide by Hawaiian kingdom law while the United States is occupying our country.
Right.
And it seems to us to be very fanciful to think the United States is going to comply with that.
Right.
So he started with the agreement between Grover Cleveland and Queen Liliuokalani, executive agreement between the two of them. And he says that that's still in proper legal standing. We need to begin there, and Obama needs to abide by that agreement by his predecessor, Grover Cleveland, with the Queen. And so I think he hopes to try to make a legal argument in court, federal court, and then if that passes, to get political support, get critical mass of people educated so they support it. And lots of luck, you know, but I don't see how it's working. The other reason is that although I respect that we certainly were a kingdom and recognized by the international community, I personally, you know, not in favor of kingdoms and all that that implies, that the king or the queen is some divinely determined person, sovereign, and because of that we have to abide.
Right.
You know, to me, we've moved on beyond that, right? And to go back on that is to go back.
So what do you see for the Hawaiian nation? I mean, not specifically, but just in general, then you would look at what?
What do I see?
Yeah.
I see a different time. We have a history, an important history, and we learn from that history, all right? But to me, we haven't learned to go back to having kings and queens,
Right.
all right? And to have a house of nobles, a landed gentry.
Yeah.
And the previous constitution still had land and income requirements to vote. We're going to go back to that?
Yeah.
You have to have land, you have to have a certain minimum income to vote?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I think
I thought we were beyond that.
I think they were going to go back to the 1864 Constitution.
Pre-bayonet
Yeah,
constitution.
because he said it was
Well,
never.
have you read what that says?
Yeah. No,
You know, that's Kamehameha the Fifth.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he was more in favor of, you had to have land, you had to have an income. You know, he was an aristocrat, he was an ali'i, you know,
Yeah.
had that ali'i complex. Can a commoner become a nobleman,
Yeah.
let alone a king?
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, we live in entirely different times, right? And to expect people to go back to that, to me, it's unrealistic.
So it's like it'll call for a different solution. I mean, form of government, you know, as the people today decide, the Hawaiians today decide.
That's right.
That's
and
what
of
you're
course,
saying.
and of course, we have lots of more and more non-Kanaka supporters of our movement. So we need to hear from them. I think culture, our traditional culture, is very important.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't think that, I don't favor our excluding non-Kanaka. And of course, there are Kanaka who not culturally Kanaka at all, right? Many who are anti-Kanaka,
Yeah.
right? So blood is not a criterion either, to me. It's a beginning, but it isn't the final criterion or necessary prerequisite. And so, those of us who are for independence, really need to get together and talk about these issues in a very systematic, and respectful way. To me, you have to be very clear, not an American, don't want to be an American. I don't want to continue to be American and someday become a citizen of my own country. And hope. Just hope and pray it'll happen.
That's interesting what you're saying, that they have faith in that process, but so many things can go wrong in that process, right? Or different people's interests, right? So this is why you don't participate in things like that.
I can't, no.
Okay.
And it's important that there be at least a core of us, who never compromise. Make it very clear. Never, at least some of us.